two major storms are on the way, and they will impact your Thanksgiving plans. That means significant snow events, severe weather including a risk of tornadoes, and a surge of bitter Arctic cold are on the way. What makes this weather pattern so concerning is that all of the ingredients are coming together at the same time. Cold air is about to collide with several storm systems in the jet stream, and the atmosphere has just enough warmth and moisture to create multiple very different outcomes. A small shift in any of these pieces could change who gets severe weather, who gets heavy snow, and where the biggest disruptions develop during the busiest travel weeks of the year. So let's break down how these two storms will evolve and what you need to know before you hit the road this Thanksgiving. We are going to begin with the most important part of our weather pattern, which is the jet stream. This is ultimately going to control our weather pattern for the next couple of weeks, and we will begin with today, which is Sunday. We right now have a big storm system that is located in the southwest, and this is actually going to begin to bring severe weather today to Texas, and then tomorrow and Tuesday we have a more elevated risk of severe weather from central and east Texas all the way through the deep south and into the Ohio Valley, where damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes will be on the table. While that's happening, we have a big storm system moving into the northeast right now that's going to bring some cold air as we go into Monday and Tuesday, which will drop temperatures by about 10 to 20 degrees. By Monday and Tuesday, this storm will make its way across the Ohio Valley. While that's happening, we're going to have an Alberta clipper that's going to make its way across Montana and North Dakota. This is forecasted to bring some heavy snowfall to the northern plains and the upper Midwest by the middle of this week, and that could cause some problems for traveling if you're going anywhere for Thanksgiving. On top of that, we're going to have pretty strong mid-level winds all across the United States, which means if you are traveling by airplane, you could experience some turbulence if you are going from north to south or south to north. So keep that in mind if you're traveling anywhere across the country this week. By Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have a big storm system located over the Great Lakes. This will likely bring some pretty significant lake effect snow to areas like Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, and Pennsylvania. So get ready for that. And then by the time we go into Friday and Saturday, we're going to have a very big dip in our jet stream, which means that we are going to experience some very cold air coming out of Canada, which, combining this with another storm system that is going to make its way out of the Pacific Ocean, we could have a big storm system by next weekend that could bring a bunch of snow and more severe weather from the Midwest back into the southern plains. And I do think our storm system next weekend is going to be way more significant than what is happening Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's something to keep an eye on. We could literally have a big storm right before and right after Thanksgiving that both cause big travel problems. And then following Thanksgiving and Black Friday, we are going to see a major storm impact the United States during the first few days of December. This has become very likely at this point. A lot of models have been showing this over the last few days. This is likely going to bring a bunch of problems, including severe weather, snow, and maybe even ice to parts of the country. And we could even see our first winter storm of the season line up here across parts of the Midwest all the way back into the southern plains. We'll talk more about this here in a moment, but this looks much more likely than before that we are actually going to see a very active start to December. Now, we have a lot to talk about in this forecast. I want to begin by talking about our temperature anomalies. It is going to cool down a ton over the next couple of weeks. We got multiple shots of cold air coming. Right now, we have above average temperatures across the entire country. All the numbers that you see on here are the difference from average in Fahrenheit. So many areas are around 5 to 15 degrees above average right now. And then by the early portion of this week, some areas in the Midwest and the Southeast will be as much as 20 degrees above average. Record-breaking heat is a possibility Monday and Tuesday. And then by Wednesday and Thursday, our first shot of cold air will come in, and that will be impacting much of the United States right in time for Thanksgiving. That includes the Ohio Valley, the Southeast, and also the Midwest, where we're likely going to drop by about 5 to 15 degrees below average. And then by Friday and Saturday, that cold air is going to build across the Northeast. Heat will build again in the southern plains by around the 29th. And then the first few days of December is when we could get a serious shot of Arctic air. It is uncertain on how cold it is going to get. It's still too early to tell exactly how cold it will get. However, I do think we are going to see a big Arctic blast. We're talking about the possibility of 20 to 30 degrees below average across the Great Plains by Wednesday or Thursday of the following week. So not this week, but next week. That is when we'll be keeping an eye on this possibility to impact the United States. And it does appear as if the first couple of weeks of December will be cold. It is not going to be a warm start to December by any means. It looks like we're going to continue to have repeated shots of cold air. One thing I will point out, though, if you are in the Southeast, including Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, or Alabama, these are areas that are likely going to be dominated by a strong ridge for at least the next couple of weeks. So it's very unlikely that we are really going to see much Arctic air reach this area. Now let's go more into detail on where we're going to see severe weather, snow, and the threat of ice over the next 10 to 14 days. We'll begin with what is happening today into tomorrow. A big storm system is currently forming across the southern plains. We got a low risk of severe weather today across parts of central and west Texas, with hail and wind the biggest concern. But Monday and Tuesday is where things are really going to be at. Monday afternoon and evening, we're going to have a more elevated risk of severe weather, mainly in this corridor where there will be a possibility of a few tornadoes. So make sure that you're staying weather aware. We'll go more in detail on the timing and also the threat in just a moment. And then as we go into Monday night and Tuesday, the storm system will move further to the east, and more severe weather will be a possibility in the Ohio Valley and the Dixie Dixie Alley on Tuesday, with wind, hail, and a few tornadoes once again being on the table. These two storm systems will merge as we go into Tuesday night. Heavy snow is possible across Minnesota, the Dakotas, and also into northern Wisconsin as we go into late Tuesday, early Wednesday. Could see a coating to a few inches across most areas north of Wausau. And then as we go into Wednesday afternoon and evening, that storm system will move into the northeast. And then on Thanksgiving Day, if you're in the Pacific Northwest or in New England, those are really the main areas where there is concern in terms of weather conditions. We'll have at least some snowfall. Most of this will be lake effect snow in Lake Erie and Lake Ontario during the daytime on Thursday. So any plans that you have outdoors, that'll be a problem. And then also in the Pacific Northwest, we'll have plenty of moisture up there where rain and snow will be falling. And this energy right here is what is going to fuel our next storm system, which is going to come as we go into the weekend and also into early next week. So this is what it looks like as we go into Friday and Saturday. So on Black Friday, we'll have a big storm system attempting to form here across the Great Plains. We are likely going to see some winter storm aspect to this storm system. I still think it's a little too early for specific details, but snow appears more likely in this region here across the northern plains, the Midwest, and even perhaps into the Ohio Valley by Saturday or Sunday. So as we go into Saturday, the storm system is going to grow in size. Severe weather may be a concern on Saturday or Sunday across the deep south, and then snow is going to drape areas across the Great Lakes in the Midwest. How much snow falls, we don't really know yet, but it looks like we're at least going to see our first snowfall of the season for many of you. And then Saturday night and early Sunday morning, this storm system continues to push east. It'll likely fall apart, but there will still be some showers and thunderstorms all across the East Coast. And then beyond this is where things get a lot more uncertain, but there are a lot of signals right now, I'll just say that are showing a possibility of another major storm system or two during the first few days of December. Right now, the GFS model is showing a massive area of snow all the way from Arizona back into the upper peninsula of Michigan as we go into Tuesday of the following week. So that is around December 2nd. Will this happen? I don't really know. It's a little too early to tell, but I do think a big storm system is going to be on the table during the first few days of December. And then another crazy thing the GFS model is showing is this right here. This is something that this model has showed 5 runs in a row. That is over a day concurrently, showing that we could see a tropical storm or hurricane develop in the Gulf. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I think the odds of this are extremely low, but if this were to happen, we would have to be watching this during the first week of December. This would be one of the craziest things we've seen in a long time. I mean, we have not had a tropical storm in December in years. This would definitely be a rarity for sure if it were to happen. And too far out to really tell if it's going to happen, but something we'll be keeping an eye on. At the bare minimum, though, the one takeaway from this, the weather is going to be absolutely insane over the next 10 days or so. Now let's go more into detail about the severe weather potential for the next few days, beginning with today, which is Sunday. We have a marginal threat of severe weather in place that goes from Dallas-Fort Worth all the way back into West Texas near Midland, where the biggest concern will be wind and hail. No tornado risk as of right now, and I don't really think there will be much of one today. It's different, though, tomorrow. Monday looks like a completely different story. We right now have a slight risk of severe weather in place from southern Arkansas back into parts of central Texas near Waco. There's also a marginal threat of severe weather from Tupelo, Mississippi, back into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, also including Houston, Texas. The biggest concerns for Monday will be damaging winds and hail up to the size of golf balls, but there is a 5% tornado risk. This is a bit more elevated. That does include Shreveport back into Tyler, Texas, and I do think we are going to likely see at least a couple of tornadoes tomorrow afternoon and evening. It's a pretty favorable environment overall, decent amount of wind shear as well in this atmosphere, which basically means we have a lot of spin aloft, and that's going to help to create the possibility for a few tornadoes. It's going to come down to storm mode, though. Will storms stay discreet, or will it be kind of messy? We don't exactly know yet, but I do think a few tornadoes are on the table, so make sure that you're staying weather aware. There is a chance of a live stream also tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon so you're notified if we do go live. And as we go into Tuesday, the threat of severe weather will continue to shift to the east. We have a marginal risk of severe weather in place from New Orleans back into central northern Alabama, including even southern Tennessee and the Atlanta, Georgia area, where the biggest concern will be damaging winds and large hail, but there is a risk for a couple of tornadoes. Now, tomorrow's tornado threat looks pretty concerning. One of the biggest things I want to point out is that our significant tornado parameter values are going to be a bit higher than usual. This is Monday afternoon and evening. Notice how we're going to have a pretty large corridor across parts of East Texas and western Louisiana with values upwards of 4 and 5, which does indicate a more medium tornado risk for Monday afternoon and evening. I do think our peak tornado threat will likely be around or just after sunset. Anytime from about 3 up until about 9 o'clock will be the main tornado time frame, but I'm more leaning towards a nocturnal tornado threat here across Louisiana and Texas. So if you're anywhere in East Texas or western Louisiana, make sure that you're staying weather aware tomorrow. Now let's talk more about the timing of severe weather, beginning with what is happening today. We'll have some scattered storms out there, mainly across West Texas later this afternoon. This will be primarily a hail concern between about 4 until about 8 o'clock tonight. tonight. And then overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, these storms will be making their approach to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then as we go into Monday, late morning and early afternoon, we're going to have a cluster of showers stretching from northern Arkansas back into central Texas. We'll be watching this area as early as 1 to 2 o'clock for storms to fire off. These are going to be pretty small supercells, but any storm that can stay discreet will have a possibility of producing a tornado risk. Wouldn't even rule out a strong tornado, especially during the late afternoon hours. This is by about 5 o'clock. We could have a discrete supercell or two well out in front of that cluster of showers and storms. Those are the ones that a more significant tornado threat may reside. And then during the evening hours, this will likely become more linear. With that said, there could still be a tornado risk, but at the bare minimum, damaging winds and some $quarter to $half size hail will continue through about midnight until these storms begin to fall apart as they pass by the Mississippi Valley. And then on Tuesday, the threat of severe weather will continue across the Ohio Valley. The morning hours will be pretty stormy, but overall not expecting a whole lot in the way of severe weather. During the early to mid-afternoon hours, storms will continue to fire right along a cold front. There will be a possibility for some hail, wind, and a couple of tornadoes during the afternoon and also into the early evening. This pictured here is 6 o'clock. The most stormy weather will be across central and northern Alabama, just to the south of Huntsville, back into central and southern Mississippi, just north of Mobile. And then as we go into the late evening hours, these storms will begin to fall apart as they make their approach to Atlanta, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And then things clear out as we go into Wednesday. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll likely have another video tomorrow. Live stream is possible as well, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to check out our 24/7 weather camera live stream. We'll have tons of cameras and chasers on there when there are severe storms tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. It's the top link in the description below or on the More Max Velocity channel, and we'll see you all again in the next video.